May the words of my mouth, the meditation of each of our hearts be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, our rock and our redeemer. Amen. Well, last week we left Abram and Sarai, and God had told them to go to a new land that he would show them, and they received a threefold blessing of a promise of land, of descendants, and of blessing. Abraham and Sarah, newly named in the covenant, they went to this new land. Sarah lands up giving birth in her ancient age, and they named him Isaac because she laughed when she heard that she was pregnant. Isaac lands up marrying Rebekah from a family and friends in the old country where Abram and Sarah had first come from. Isaac marries Rebekah. They have twin sons named Esau and Jacob. And Esau, minutes older than his twin brother, has the blessing, but his brother Jacob steals it from him. So Jacob steals the blessing from his older brother, and Esau does not take kindly on that, so Jacob needs to flee. He goes back to the old country again, and there he resides with his uncle Laban, Rebekah's brother, and he works for him, and it's a long and twisted story of how Jacob lands up with 12 sons and one daughter, but let it be known that his favorite was Rachel, who was the mother of Joseph, whom we talk about today. So that's the last 27 chapters of Genesis in a snapshot to catch you up where we are today. You heard the children tell the story of Joseph about his brothers, not sisters, his brothers. I love that. Those kids are so cute. His brothers who had acted ill on his behalf. You know, this text that we have before us is a text that in my 32 years of preaching, I have never preached on. In the Revised Standard Lectionary, which many churches use, and which we started using a different lectionary 5 years ago, this hasn't even ever come up because it is not a G-rated reading, correct? Never had to deal with it. And in the narrative lectionary, it comes up every 4 years, and I must have had Pastor Ben preach on this the last time. So today, I kind of had thought of passing it off to Vicar Hans, but alas, here I am. So, this text, these last weeks and months have reminded us that this text needs to be addressed, because we can't and we shouldn't run away from it because it makes us uncomfortable. The text today reminds us that sexual harassment against men and women has happened since the beginning of time. The text speaks the truth, reminding us that the person who says no to power can often experience threats and negative consequences. The text reveals that it's been happening since the beginning of time. But using power and position to bully, objectify, sexually harass, or assault is deplorable, tragic, and dehumanizing, as much today as it was in the ancient days of Joseph. This is a story of straight-up abuse of power. There is a power differential at work here. There's no way that it could ever be of mutual consent. Potiphar's wife, again, another woman, we don't know her name, is the person of power, one of wealth, position, and influence. Joseph, on the other hand, is a victim of human trafficking. He is bought and sold to be a slave in a household. Jacob, these 13 chapters of the Joseph narrative, from beginning to end, one could talk about that the themes run to faithfulness and unfaithfulness, and a little bit of a lot of dysfunctional family dynamics. But Jacob, the father, thought he was being faithful to Joseph because he loved his mother best, and he favored him by giving him a coat of many colors. But Jacob is unfaithful to the other 11 brothers by favoring one child over another. Because Joseph's brothers are so incredibly jealous because of the favoritism, and because Joseph is a bit smug when he tells them that he had a dream where all his brothers are bowing down before him, they throw him in a pit. At first they were going to kill him, but then they decide to mug and strip him and sell him into slavery to Egyptian merchants. And just to make that unfaithfulness even worse, they take Joseph's coat of many colors, they put the blood of a lamb or a goat upon it, and they offer false testimony to their father, saying that their brother is dead. Joseph lands up in a pit once more in chapter 39. It's unfair. He has been faithful to helping Potiphar. The house in which he is a slave is thriving, and he is faithful to Potiphar by resisting Potiphar's wife's sexual advances. Joseph is doing the right thing. He's faithful. He is a person of incredible integrity, but that doesn't mean that it will bring reward or accolades. Sometimes being the person of integrity lands you in the pit. Potiphar's wife is angry at Joseph's refusal. Joseph, by taking the high road, by saying no, because he doesn't want to be disloyal to his master Potiphar, is pointing out the unfaithfulness of Potiphar's wife. And once again, a piece of Joseph's clothing is used as false testimony against him, just like his brothers. Potiphar's wife takes Joseph's clothes and presents them as false witness to her husband, saying that Joseph tried to rape her. Potiphar's wife, a woman of power, prestige, and position, lies because you can hear the disdain in her voice. A lowly Hebrew slave has said no, and she's going to make him pay. That's another part of the difficult nature of this text. How many times has this text been used to say that women or other victims of assault are lying? I know people have lied and have used innuendo alone to undo a person's career or reputation. But more often than not, the stories of most victims are stories of truth to power. Abuse comes in many different forms. And I've had more than one person tell me, I wish you could see the scars on the outside of my body for how I feel inside. A child versus an adult abuser, an employee versus a boss, a child or a vulnerable adult versus a priest or a pastor. Speaking truth to power is agonizingly difficult. As a pastor of 32 years, I can't tell you how many gut-wrenching stories I have heard. I went to bat for a man whose wife said he abused his kids so that she could get custody and get more alimony or child care. It was a lie, a bold-faced lie. I went to bat for him. And I risked career as a young pastor, new to a community, when I reported a well-known, connected, popular, charismatic, successful man who happened to be a pastor. he was sexually harassing teenage girls, and it eventually came out that he was abusing counselees in the congregation. I will never forget the day those girls came to me and said, "Pastor Meredith, who will ever believe us? He's so-and-so." I said, "I believe you." And friends, the aftermath was not pleasant. But speaking truth to power never is. Yes, some people use lies and innuendo as power to destroy, like Potiphar's wife. But men and women who have been violated have everything to lose as truth tellers, and they should not be further victimized. It takes such strength, bravery, and courage to tell their story. And sadly, Christ Church, you name the denomination, has also been unfaithful. Christ's name has been sullied by perpetrators who have hidden behind a collar or a title. And it makes me so incredibly angry and furious, because all of us who serve Christ's church, yes, we are in positions of power as clergy or deacons, are suspects when another pastor, deacon falls from grace. In Minnesota, I had a woman who was obviously distressed and needed to talk with me. And she asked me, "How can I know I can trust you?" I was devastated. And all I could do is assure her I was trustworthy and would hold her story in confidence until she wanted to act on the information by filing a criminal complaint. Sexual assault and abuse is so prevalent in our culture as it has been throughout history. I dream someday that we're going to be able to teach our young people to respect their own bodies and the bodies of others, to use their words and their actions not to just simply gratify and build themselves up at another's expense. How do you think Joseph felt once he was back again in the pit, his cloak used for false testimony? Do you think he was like, "Hey God, if this is blessing, I'm really glad you're not punishing me"? Life, even the life of faith, can sometimes feel like we're thrown into a pit. But even there, God meets us, sometimes profoundly so. And that is often where we feel God's presence the most, because gone are the distractions of life that prevents us from naming how God is active in our everyday life. But when you're in the pit, God is all you have to hold on to. Human suffering is not a part of God's blessing, and it is also not a part of God's curse. Human suffering is due to human sin, and God never leaves us or abandons us. God is forever faithful. So you, my friends, have the responsibility to raise our young people, whether neighbor, grandparent, parent, older sibling. You are to raise them to respect themselves and others, and to make wise decisions, and remind them that there is no secret that they can't tell you. And if you have one as well, you can always tell me. We need to have open conversations about sexuality and answer our children's questions. Because we live in a world where people often cherish things and use people. That isn't what God intended. Let us cherish people and use things. Can I hear an amen? Amen.